So freedoms are American rights. Are they inherent or are they inherited? Do our rights come from God? Are they inherent or have we inherited them from the Old English? The Old English school of books or whatever. So this is a debate between Edmund Burke and Mary Wallstonecraft. Where do our freedoms come from? Does it come from history? Does it come from God? Does it come from English heritage or inherent rationality? Here we go. So Englishman Edmund Burke, he hated the French Revolution, but he loved the American one. So Edmund Burke, he's the one with the famous quote that the only thing we need for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. Edmund Burke believed that English liberty is genius because English liberty was an inheritance. And since English liberty was an inheritance, it was a piece of property, an estate that was handed down to the English from the great English ancestors on high, to be given to English people, the posterity in perpetuity, forever and ever and ever. Now, this is his critique on the French Revolution. This is a quote from Edmund Burke. The people of England well know that the idea of inheritance furnishes a sure principle of conservation and a sure principle of transmission without at all excluding a principle of improvement. This is from the Reflections on the French Revolution. So he's trying to say that because our freedoms are a gift, it's an inheritance, it's a piece of property that you can pass on. He's saying it's genius, it's brilliant. So there's been this long inheritance of English liberties, which the French don't have. The French are just one day out of nowhere, they just said that they're free, chopped off the king and queen's head, and now they got a damn revolution going on. What the hell are those French people doing? The French people also, when they had their revolution, they had to combat all these other nations that was attacking them. And then America wouldn't even back the French Revolution up. And we're the ones that inspired it. The French Revolution was more revolutionary than America's, and then the Haitian Revolution was more revolutionary than the French's. So for Edmund Burke, English liberty is noble and majestic, which grounds the English. So we're not arrogant about it. Proper English men behave accordingly with an awful gravity of being in the presence of canonized forefathers. So since we have these canonized forefathers that have passed down these English freedoms from on Mount Sinai, from on high, from Rocky Mountain tops, we have an inheritable crown, an inheritable peerage, and a House of Commons and a people inheriting privileges, franchises, and liberties from a long line of ancestors. And this is brilliant because if it's just an heirloom, then you can just, keep it and cradle it. And then you can say, oh, man, remember when the great King Henry II gave us the grand jury? Oh, man, King Henry II. He gave us the grand jury, and then he did the assizes of Clarendon, and then the assizes of Northampton. Good old King Henry II. The English passed down English privileges the same way humankind passes our lives and property to future generations. Who gets the house? Who gets the land? Yeah, but who gets the freedoms? Edmund Burke references the Declaration of Right and the Magna Carta. We gave our future posterity the Declaration of Right. Don't tell me you don't know what the Declaration of Right was from 1689 or the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta of 1215. Come on, America. You know about the Magna Carta and the Declaration of Right. The Magna Carta, the barons all cornered King John with a sword and said, you better give us, our right to a jury trial, you son of a bitch. And King John's like, hey, I'll sign it. So it wasn't because of rationality. He didn't come to his senses. And then the Magna Carta only protected the barons. It didn't give freedoms to the people. According to Edmund Burke, the real rights for the English are as follows. Number one, the right to use civil society for one's individual advantage. Number two, the right to justice for the ordinary and the elites alike. Number three, the right to the fruits of their industry, the English's industry, and to the means of making their industry fruitful. Number four, the right to the property of one's parents. Number five, the right to nourish and improve our children. Those are the five freedoms. Where is he getting this shit from? Where is this coming from? England today, the United Kingdom today, doesn't have a constitution or a Bill of Rights. They're just making shit up. The right to use civil society for one's individual advantage, the right to justice, the right to the fruits of our industry, and the means of making our industry fruitful. These are not rights that Americans believe. A lot of Americans don't even think, well, it's cutthroat, it's capitalistic, it's dog eat dog. The right to the property of one's parents, yeah, I guess kind of. There's the estate tax, the right to nourish and improve our children. Whatever each man can separately do without trespassing upon others, he has a right to do for himself, and he has a right to a fair portion of all which society, with all its combinations of skill and force, can do in his favor. In this partnership, all men have equal rights, but not to equal things. Now, let's hear what Mary Wallstonecraft has to say. Mary Wallstonecraft, what say ye? So Edmund Burke, he doesn't believe in natural law, but Mary Wallstonecraft, she does. Now remember, natural law is moral law, which makes it eternal law. Mary believes that liberty comes from God. Humankind's yearning for freedom comes from our human experience. For Mary Wollstonecraft, our rights don't come from a long tradition of English legal rights, but instead our rights come from within ourselves. Our rights come from the ability of humankind to be able to reason and comprehend. The birthright, this is Mary Wollstonecraft, and I'm quoting, the birthright of man, to give you, sir, a short definition. A short definition of this disputed right is such a degree of liberty, civil and religious, as is compatible with the liberty of every other individual with whom he is united in a social compact, and the continued existence of that compact. This is from Mary Wollstonecraft's A Vindication of the Rights of Men. She's famous for the vindication of the rights of women, but she wrote this first. So she's saying that we have as much freedom as we possibly could desire, all the freedom under the sun, as long as we don't infringe upon someone else's freedom. So whatever floats our boat but doesn't sink theirs. I have a right to swing my fist as wildly as I can until it pops you in the nose. Jean-Jacques Rousseau said, this was the goal of forming the social compact. Why do we have a social compact? I didn't sign a social compact. The whole point of a damn constitution is it's a contract. The Constitution is a contract between the government and the people. And you do want to be a part of the social contract or the social compact, because if you are, say you have a speeding ticket, but you pay the speeding ticket off, well, now you're allowed to go back to driving. Why? Because of the social compact. Let's say you want to get a driver's license. Let's say you want to send your kids to school. Let's say you want to do a bunch of things. I never signed a damn social compact. Okay. Jean-Jacques Rousseau said that this was the goal of forming the social compact, to find a form of association which defends and protects with the whole force of the community the person and the goods of every associate, and by means of which each, uniting with all, nevertheless obeys only himself and remains as free as before. That's pretty cool. I love that definition. This is Social Contract, Book 1, Chapter 6 of the Social Pact for Mary Wollstonecraft. Human rationality comes from God, but that it results from the eternal foundation of right, from immutable truth. Who will presume to deny that pretends to rationality, if reason has led them to build their mortality and religion on an everlasting foundation, the attributes of God. Mary Wallstonecraft says that Edmund Burke has too much reverence for the rust of antiquity, that Edmund Burke has a blind love, nay, an unprincipled filial affection for the venerable vestiges of ancient days. The ivy is beautiful, Mary Wollstonecraft writes, but when it insidiously destroys the trunk from which it receives support, who would not grub it up? Mary Wollstonecraft says that hereditary property and hereditary honors has stopped the march of progress of European civilization. Why? Because the hereditary man has been changed into an artificial monster by the station in which he was born, and the consequent homage that benumbed his faculties like the torpedo's touch. A man of inheritance will never realize that true happiness arises from the friendship and intimacy of equals, and that charity is not a condescending distribution of alms, but an intercourse of good offices and mutual benefits founded on respect for justice and humanity. So she's not only saying that rights come from within us, but she's saying that it's better that it comes from within us, because if it's just a damned inheritance, then you're just going to be a pish-posh, elitist prick, and you're not really going to even know how to use your freedoms, not properly. It is necessary emphatically to repeat that there are rights which men inherit at their birth as rational creatures who are raised above the brute creation by their improvable faculties, and that in receiving these, not from their forefathers, but from God, prescription can never undermine natural rights. Mary Wollstonecraft brings her conclusions home when she points out a father can sell his possessions, clothes, land, buildings, however he pleases. But a father cannot sell his children into slavery. If rights are property, then previous generations can just sell them off to the highest bidder. Instead, rights are the property of man's essence, accompanying man upon birth, nestled in his bosom as the man he is and the man he will become. Humankind's ability to reason allows us to throw out the superstitious lies of parents and to consider what is best for ourselves. Mary Wollstonecraft doesn't like that Edmund Burke believes in an eternal submission to authority, legitimate or not, because oppression must end at some point, or else humanity will return to barbarism. What's the point of the above write-up between Edmund Burke versus Mary Wollstonecraft? It's crystal clear that Mary Wollstonecraft is as right as rain. She is right. Edmund Burke is wrong. Edmund Burke is just flailing and floundering in the tsunami winds of lost time and archaic sands in the desert shire of yore. He's trying to say that the French Revolution sucks because it's not an English revolution. And we had our glorious revolution, which was what? Fucking William and Mary came over and kicked James out of town. So the glorious revolution was a nice, perfect, bloodless coup. And we were able to get all of our freedoms from that bloodless coup. There is something to be said about the American Revolution. The main argument for the American Revolution was that our rights, we had the same rights as Englishmen, as if we were still on the island of England, whereas they were treating us as vassals, as client states, as second-class citizens. They're saying, no, you're our colonies, so we get to basically do with you as we please. But it's like, wait a second, no, we have all these rights as Englishmen. Just because we live in a colony, that doesn't mean we relinquished any of our rights. And then the King George III was like, no, actually, you're more or less our slaves. We tax you, shut the hell up, give us our tea tax. Are our Bill of Rights just an ignis fatuus, a deceptive goal or hope, a jack-o'-lantern, a foolish fire, a will-o'-the-wisp? Or are they real? Our Bill of Rights are based on both natural law, as Mary Wollstonecraft believes in, and our legal inheritance, as Edmund so eloquently waxes poetic about. So, technically speaking, our Bill of Rights in America are both. We have an inherited sense of the rights and freedoms of Englishmen. We also have the natural rights of just being rational man. So technically, regardless of whether you agree that liberal Mary or the conservative Edmund is correct, our American Bill of Rights from 1791 are our reality. Whether they're God-given or they're our birthright, if we can keep them, they're our reality. We have the Bill of Rights. Were they given to us by God because we're rational creatures? Did they come from old ancient English tradition? We have them. We have the Bill of Rights. They're our reality. If we could keep them, right? Isn't that what Ben Franklin said about the Republic? What kind of government did you design for us, Mr. Franklin? A republic, if you can keep it. Denying any American's liberty is not an option. It's not an option. So that's fantastic. If you ever talk to somebody that's against freedom, that says that we don't have liberties, when I went to college, I didn't even know what the definition of liberty was. After how many times did I say the fucking Pledge of Allegiance? Liberty? What the hell is that? Liberty is freedom? Well, what are rights? That's freedom too. What about privileges and immunities? All these are freedoms. George Washington, Napoleon, they were inspired by individual rights. There are great men that are out there that have been inspired by civil liberties in of themselves. You didn't need communism. You didn't need to feed everybody. There is, that is an ideal. The Haitian Revolution beats the French. I like the revolutions that kind of take a next step, right? I like the Cuban Revolution. I like the Chinese Revolution. I like the Russian Revolution. Each one of these revolutions brought something new to the table. But there's also the Russian Revolution could have been better if they had a constitution and Bill of Rights. Could you imagine if Lenin was elected? Could you imagine if, Stalin was the fucking goddamn Fuhrer for, fucking 8 years and stepped down and then passed the torch on to somebody else? The Soviets would still be around if they had done that. Instead, they were just a dictatorship of the proletariat. George wanted men of honor and integrity and virtue because they took their job more serious and they were more professional. We face neither east nor west. We face forward. Revolutions are brought about by men who think as men of action and act as men of thought. Freedom is not something that one people can bestow on another as a gift. They claim it as their own, and none can keep it from them. So anybody that ever tells you that you don't have freedoms as an American, well, they're not even part of the damn discussion now, are they? Edmund Burke says we get our freedoms from our inheritance. Mary Wallstonecraft says it comes from within our own hearts and souls and minds. But neither one of them says, freedom schmeedom, shut the fuck up and do as I tell you. An oppressor wants to kill your very soul. An oppressor wants to put a boot on your head and tell you to be a bitch-ass slave. They don't give a damn about anything. They don't care about anything. Don't care about your progress, whether you get a job, a career, a bank account. What the hell is an ignis fatuus?